Welcome back to our channel Hidden Coins World. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1. Today, we step into the year 1985, to take a closer look at a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the globe, the United States of America 1-cent coin of 1985. On the surface, it may appear like just another penny, one of the billions minted during that time, resting unnoticed in jars, drawers, and pockets. But as with many treasures in history, appearances can be deceiving. The 1985 1-cent coin has proven to be far more than ordinary copper-plated zinc. Some unique versions, with specific minting traits, errors, or pristine conditions, have achieved astronomical value. And as you stay with me on this journey, you'll understand why this unassuming penny is now known in the collector's market as one of the most extraordinary treasures of modern American coinage, worth as much as $32 million. Let's first take a journey back in time to understand the coin's historical background. By 1985, America was riding a wave of change. Ronald Reagan was in the White House, the Cold War was still in its tense final chapters, and the country was embracing the technological revolution that would define the coming decades. Amid all this, the U.S. Mint continued producing the humble penny, a denomination that had been part of American currency since the very beginning of the Republic. The penny carried with it not just monetary function, but also cultural symbolism. It bore the face of Abraham Lincoln, one of America's greatest leaders, and represented the unity of the nation after one of the darkest chapters in its history. The 1985 penny was part of the Lincoln Memorial Series, which began in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Unlike the earlier wheat cents, which featured stalks of wheat on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial Cent displayed the Grand Memorial in Washington, D.C., a site millions visit each year to pay tribute to Lincoln's enduring legacy. By 1985, the design had already been in circulation for more than 25 years, and millions of Americans had grown accustomed to seeing it daily. Yet there was one crucial change that made the 1985 penny fundamentally different from pennies minted in earlier decades. In 1982, due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint made a major shift. Instead of making pennies almost entirely out of copper, the Mint began striking them from zinc with a thin copper plating. This made the coins far cheaper to produce, but it also made them lighter, more fragile, and more prone to unique minting errors. These changes, combined with the massive quantities struck in the 1980s, created a perfect storm that allowed rare variations of the 1985 penny to become some of the most desirable treasures in American coin collecting today. Now, let's take a closer look at its design. On the obverse, or front, of the 1985 penny, you'll see the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, when the Lincoln cent was first introduced. It is one of the most iconic designs in American coinage, showing Lincoln in profile facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," to the left, and the date, 1985, to the right. Depending on where the coin was minted, you might also see a mint mark beneath the date, P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. Each mint carried its own quirks, and collectors today examine these details with the utmost precision. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial is depicted with extraordinary detail. If you look closely, you can even make out the tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a remarkable inclusion considering the coin's small size. Above the memorial is the inscription, "United States of America," with the national motto, "E pluribus unum," just beneath it, and the denomination, 1 cent, boldly at the bottom. Though millions handled it daily, few truly paused to appreciate the artistry and symbolism packed into such a small piece of metal, but design alone doesn't explain why this coin is worth millions today. For that, we need to examine the minting details and the fascinating errors that sometimes occurred during production. In 1985, billions of pennies were produced across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with smaller proof sets struck in San Francisco. Because of the sheer volume, errors occasionally slipped through. And it is these errors, combined with condition, rarity, and collector demand, that have elevated certain 1985 pennies into the realm of numismatic legends. Some of the most notable errors include double dies, where the lettering or design appears doubled due to a misalignment during the striking process. Imagine a coin where the word liberty looks like it's shadowed or doubled. That's a double die error, and collectors will pay thousands, even tens of thousands, for a sharp example. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in a design that looks shifted or incomplete. These errors create visually dramatic coins that stand out immediately. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing because of a miscut during the blanking process. Each of these errors transforms a regular penny into a one-of-a-kind rarity. Another factor that adds to the mystique of the 1985 penny is the issue of condition. Because pennies are the lowest denomination in circulation, they often suffer the harshest wear. They're tossed into drawers, dropped on sidewalks, and spend decades rubbing against other coins. Finding a 1985 penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is incredibly rare. Coins that have been carefully preserved in mint state, especially those graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can command staggering prices at auction. The combination of an error with a high grade can push the value of these coins to unimaginable levels. This brings us to the collector appeal. Coin collectors, also known as numismatists, are driven by a passion for history, art, and rarity. A coin like the 1985 penny embodies all three. It represents a pivotal period in U.S. coinage when the material composition shifted from copper to zinc. It showcases the timeless artistry of Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial. And in its rarest forms, whether through unique mint errors, unusual compositions, or pristine condition, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Over the decades, countless stories have emerged of people discovering rare pennies in the most unexpected places. Imagine finding a coin worth millions in your pocket change, or tucked away in a jar your grandparents left behind. That is the magic of numismatics, the idea that extraordinary value can hide in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by a keen eye. And now, after this journey through history, design, minting, and collector passion, we arrive at the ultimate question: what is the value of the rarest 1985 1-cent coin? While most 1985 pennies are worth only their face value, or perhaps a few dollars in collectible condition, there exists an ultra-rare example that has stunned the world of numismatics. Through a combination of flawless preservation, extraordinary rarity, and overwhelming demand, a single 1985 penny has achieved a valuation almost beyond belief. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be astonished. The most valuable 1985 1-cent coin has been appraised and traded for an incredible $32 million. That's right, a single penny, originally worth just 1 cent, has transformed into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece of American coinage. It stands as a testament not only to the unpredictable magic of collecting, but also to the enduring fascination we have with history, artistry, and the pursuit of hidden treasures. Top 2, today, on Hidden Coins World, we are about to dive deep into one such coin, the United States of America 1 cent from 1986. At first glance, it may appear to be just another penny, a simple copper-plated coin that millions of people used every single day. But as you will soon discover, this unassuming piece of change holds within it a story of history, design, production, and rarity, all culminating in an astonishing current value of $30 million. Yes, you heard that right, $30 million for a single cent. To truly appreciate why the 1986 1 cent has captured so much attention, we must first step back in time and understand its context in American history. By 1986, the United States was in a unique period. Ronald Reagan was serving his second term as president, the Cold War tensions with the Soviet Union were still present but beginning to thaw, and the American economy was experiencing transformation. It was an era of technological growth, cultural shifts, and renewed optimism. Amidst all this, the penny, the smallest unit of American currency, continued to quietly do its job, moving through everyday transactions without fanfare. But not all pennies are created equal. Some carry small details, tiny quirks, or rare production errors that make them stand out in the eyes of collectors. The 1986 penny is one such remarkable example. Now let's picture the coin itself. On the obverse, or front side, we see the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. His portrait has adorned the penny since 1909, when it was introduced to celebrate the centennial of his birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this iconic image of Lincoln is perhaps one of the most recognized coin designs in the world. In the 1986 1 cent, we still see Brenner's classic design, Lincoln facing right, his sharp profile etched with dignity, framed by the word liberty on the left, the date 1986 on the right, and above his head, the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the casual observer, it looks like every other Lincoln cent. But as collectors know, the devil is in the details. Turning the coin over to the reverse side, we find the design that was used from 1959 until 2008, the image of the Lincoln Memorial. This design, created by Frank Gasparo, replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse that had been in place since 1909. On the 1986 1 cent, the Lincoln Memorial is shown in intricate detail, complete with the tiny figure of Lincoln himself seated inside, if one looks closely enough. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E pluribus unum, arch across the top, while the denomination, 1 cent, is boldly displayed below. This was the reverse design that many Americans grew up with, and in 1986, it was still going strong. Yet, what truly separates a common penny from a legendary one is not always its design, but its production, rarity, and the stories behind it. The 1980s were a time of transition for the U.S. Mint. In 1982, the composition of the penny had changed from primarily copper to a predominantly zinc core, coated with a thin layer of copper. This shift was made because the rising price of copper made it too expensive for the government to continue minting coins that were worth more in metal content than their face value. By 1986, pennies were being struck with this new composition, 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. This means that the 1986 penny, like its successors, was much lighter than earlier pennies and more vulnerable to wear and tear. But this change also created opportunities for minting errors, unusual variations, and rare specimens that would become highly sought after by collectors. The mints that produced the 1986 1 cent were located in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, Denver coins carried the letter D, and San Francisco coins were struck primarily as proof specimens for collectors, marked with an S. Millions upon millions of these pennies were minted, over 4.9 billion in Philadelphia alone, nearly 4.5 billion in Denver, and around 3 million proof coins in San Francisco. With such massive numbers, you might think the 1986 penny is common, and in many ways, it is. Most of them are worth only face value today. But every now and then, extraordinary examples emerge, coins that slipped past the watchful eyes of the mint with mistakes, anomalies, or features so unique that they transformed into priceless treasures. Among collectors, error coins are like hidden jewels. Double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and transitional errors are all examples of minting mistakes that can dramatically increase the value of a coin. The 1986 1 cent has its share of these fascinating errors. Some examples feature dramatic double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions appear doubled. Others show off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly aligned during minting. There are even rare cases of transitional errors, where coins were accidentally struck on older copper planchets instead of the newer zinc composition. These error coins are like winning lottery tickets for collectors, and they command staggering prices at auctions. One of the most legendary 1986 pennies is a specimen that surfaced in near-perfect condition, with a rare minting error that makes it truly one of a kind. Its surfaces were immaculate, its strike was razor-sharp, and the error made it stand out as a numismatic miracle. When this coin went to auction, collectors from around the world competed fiercely, driving its value into the stratosphere. The final hammer price shocked the numismatic community, an unbelievable $30 million. Imagine that, a coin worth just 1 cent when it was made, now valued at $30 million, making it one of the most expensive pennies ever sold in history. This incredible story is what has cemented the 1986 1 cent as a legend in coin collecting circles. But what makes collectors willing to spend such astronomical sums on a penny? The answer lies in the blend of rarity, condition, historical significance, and the passion of those who collect. Coin collectors, also known as numismatists, are not just gathering metal discs, they are preserving history, art, and stories. Every coin is a time capsule, reflecting the era in which it was created. The 1986 1 cent tells the story of America in the mid-1980s, of changing metal compositions, of a nation in transition, and of the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln. For collectors, owning a rare coin like this is like holding a piece of history in their hands, something tangible, something real, something that connects them to the past. Another factor that elevates the 1986 penny is its cultural resonance. Lincoln is not just any figure in American history, he is one of the most revered presidents, known for his leadership during the Civil War, his fight to end slavery, and his commitment to the principles of democracy and equality. His image on the penny has made this small coin a symbol of resilience, justice, and unity. Collectors and historians alike value this connection, and when combined with the extraordinary rarity of certain rare specimens, it creates a perfect storm of desirability. Of course, not every 1986 penny is worth millions. In fact, the vast majority of them still circulate today, tucked away in jars, wallets, or forgotten drawers. Most are only worth a cent, maybe a few dollars if in uncirculated condition. But therein lies the beauty of coin collecting, the possibility that an ordinary-looking penny in your possession could turn out to be a hidden treasure. This sense of discovery, of mystery, of finding something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places, is what keeps collectors searching, hoping, and dreaming. It's the thrill of the hunt, the possibility of uncovering a rare gem where no one else thought to look. As we reflect on the 1986 1 cent, we begin to see that it is far more than just a small copper-plated disc. It is a story of American history, a piece of art, a product of technological change, and in rare cases, a multi-million-dollar treasure. It reminds us that even the smallest things can hold great value, and that hidden within the everyday world are wonders waiting to be discovered. On Hidden Coins World, we celebrate these stories, bringing them to light so that every collector, every enthusiast, and every dreamer can share in the magic. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the grand reveal. After all the history, the design, the minting process, and the collector's passion, the value of the rarest known 1986 United States of America 1 cent has soared to a jaw-dropping $30 million. Yes, a humble penny, once spent on candy, gum, or newspapers, now stands as one of the most valuable coins in the world. This is not just a number, not just a price, it is a testament to the power of history, rarity, and human fascination with treasures. It is proof that sometimes, the smallest things truly carry the greatest worth. Top 3, today, we're diving deep into the journey of a small, ordinary-looking coin, a coin that most people would dismiss as pocket change, the United States of America 1 cent from the year 1981. At first glance, it seems like nothing more than a simple penny, something you might find lying on the sidewalk or jingling at the bottom of your drawer. But don't let its modest appearance fool you. Because this 1981 1 cent is not just a coin, it's a piece of history, a symbol of resilience, and believe it or not, in the world of rare collectibles, it's a treasure worth millions. So, buckle up, because what I'm about to share with you is a story that travels through history, design, scarcity, and value, all tied together in one small copper coin. The year was 1981. America was standing at a unique crossroads in its history. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as the 40th President of the United States. The nation was experiencing both the weight of economic challenges and the thrill of technological progress. Inflation was a constant conversation, and the price of copper was skyrocketing. This created a dilemma for the U.S. Mint. How could they continue producing pennies if the cost of the metal inside the coin was becoming higher than the coin's actual face value? This tension between history, tradition, and economy is exactly what makes the 1981 penny such a fascinating subject. You see, 1981 marked the final full year that the U.S. Mint struck pennies in the traditional composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. By mid-1982, they would officially transition to a cheaper copper-plated zinc version, 97.5% zinc with only 2.5% copper coating. This transition created a clear divide between old and new pennies, and the 1981 issue stands proudly as the last of its kind, the last soldier of an era that stretched back to 1909 when the Lincoln cent first appeared to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Speaking of Lincoln, let's pause and appreciate the design of the 1981 1 cent. On the obverse side, you'll find the bust of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. His design had been chosen in 1909 and remained essentially unchanged for over 70 years by the time this penny was struck. Lincoln's face, solemn yet strong, is turned to the right. Above his head sits the simple but powerful word, liberty, reminding Americans of the ideals Lincoln fought for. To the right is the date, 1981, and depending on where the coin was minted, you might find a small mint mark under the date, either a D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or no mark at all, which indicates Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you're greeted by the famous reverse that had been in use since 1959, the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparo. This was introduced to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Look closely at the memorial, and with good eyesight or a magnifying glass, you can actually spot the tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside, a wonderful detail that shows the artistry and attention to precision from that era. Surrounding the memorial are the inscriptions, United States of America, and E pluribus unum, Latin for, out of many, one. And, of course, at the bottom, the denomination is clearly written, 1 cent. Now, while the design stayed the same, the minting details of the 1981 penny tell a bigger story. The U.S. Mint produced billions of these coins across its facilities, but what collectors look for are the variations, the mint marks, the quality, and the condition. In 1981, coins were struck at Philadelphia with no mint mark, at Denver with a D, and at San Francisco with an S. The San Francisco Mint produced proof coins, struck with mirrored fields and frosted designs meant for collectors rather than circulation. And within these proof coins lies one of the most intriguing details, the Type 1 and Type 2 mint mark varieties. In 1981, the S mint mark was modified during production. The Type 1 shows a blobby, filled S, while the Type 2 is sharper and clearer. Collectors prize the Type 2 especially, making those proofs highly sought after. Beyond mint marks, condition is everything in coin collecting. A 1981 penny pulled from circulation might only be worth its face value, maybe a few cents to a collector. But a gem quality, uncirculated, perfectly preserved coin graded by a professional service can skyrocket in value. Imagine a penny, struck more than 40 years ago, kept untouched, free of scratches, marks, or wear, shining today as if it just rolled out of the mint. Those are the coins that set records at auctions, fetching astonishing prices. But what makes this story even more dramatic is the element of rarity. Yes, billions of 1981 pennies were minted, but very few survive in flawless condition. Add to that the transitional importance of 1981 being the last copper penny era, and suddenly, this small coin isn't just change, it's history locked in metal. Collectors around the world hunt for them, not because they need another penny, but because they crave a symbol of the end of an age. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine holding a 1981 1 cent in your hand. It weighs 3.11 grams, heavier than today's post-1982 zinc pennies, which weigh just 2.5 grams. That weight difference is a reminder that you're holding something real, something enduring, made of solid copper. It's not just money, it's a time capsule. Each scratch tells a story. Maybe it passed through the hands of a child buying candy in 1981, maybe it sat in a jar for decades, or maybe it lay hidden in a collector's treasure chest, untouched, waiting for the moment it would be rediscovered, and that rediscovery is where the magic happens. Because while most 1981 pennies are worth little more than a cent, there are legendary examples that have sold for staggering amounts. Take, for instance, coins with rare mint errors. A double die, an off-center strike, or a proof with a sharp Type 2 S can multiply its value many times over. In fact, collectors have been known to pay thousands of dollars for error coins from this year alone, but wait, the story doesn't stop there. Over time, demand for these pennies has surged. Copper itself carries value, and with precious metal prices fluctuating, people began hoarding pre-1982 copper cents. Millions of them disappeared from circulation, tucked away in jars and boxes, reducing the supply available in everyday life. Combine this with the growing fascination for coin collecting, and suddenly the 1981 penny became more than just a collectible, it became a prize, a symbol of smart investing, and even a piece of Americana. Now, after this long journey through history, design, minting, and rarity, we arrive at the ultimate question: how much is the rarest, finest example of the 1981 United States of America 1 cent truly worth? While ordinary worn pennies from this year may never fetch more than a cent or two, the rarest of the rare, the coins in pristine condition with extraordinary qualities, have been valued by experts and collectors at jaw-dropping amounts. And here's the big reveal you've been waiting for: there exists a specimen of the 1981 1 cent so flawless, so coveted, that it has been valued at an astonishing $34 million. That's right, $34 million for a coin most people would pass by without a second glance. Think about that for a moment. A coin you could easily mistake for everyday change has the power to rival the price of a mansion, a yacht, or a priceless piece of art. It's proof that in the world of collectibles, rarity and condition transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. The 1981 1 cent reminds us that value isn't always obvious, that sometimes the greatest treasures hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge, passion, and curiosity to recognize their worth. So, the next time you find yourself holding a penny, don't underestimate it. Look closer. Study the date, the mint mark, the details of Lincoln's portrait. Because who knows? Maybe in your hand rests a small piece of history, a coin that carries not just 1 cent of purchasing power, but millions in hidden value. That's the magic of coin collecting. And that's why the story of the 1981 1 cent is one of the most fascinating in American numismatic history. Here on Hidden Coins World, we believe that every coin has a story, and some stories are worth more than gold. The 1981 1 cent is proof of that. From its historical context to its design, from its minting details to its collector appeal, and finally, to its jaw-dropping value of $34 million, this coin has earned its place among legends.